If it's Thursday, rescue and recovery now underway after Hurricane Milton tears through Florida as a powerful Category 3 storm, killing at least 12 people and causing massive power outages, heavy flooding, and billions of dollars worth of destruction. Plus, former President Barack Obama hits the campaign trail for Harris for the first time, kicking off his Get Out the Vote efforts as both campaigns look to fire up their base and rally crucial voters to the polls with just 26 days to go. And former President Trump tells voters he doesn't want to be nice to Vice President Harris as he ramps up the personal attacks on her and blasts the White House for its disaster response. Welcome to Meet the Press Now. I'm Kristen Welker. We begin with breaking news out of Florida, where we now are seeing the extent of the devastation caused by Hurricane Milton after it made landfall yesterday near Siesta Key, Florida, a barrier island of Sarasota. At least 12 people were killed, more than 3 million lost power, and 11 million were at risk of flash flooding and river flooding. Governor Ron DeSantis has been traveling through the state and assessing the damage.
As people know, we've had massive power outages, which was expected. I'd say this is probably similar to Hurricanes Irma and Ian in terms of the number of outages. I think we're up to, currently now it's about 3.4 million that are out. I think they've restored about 700,000 since the storm started. This is something that the state has dealt with for its entire history. And it's something that we'll continue to deal with. I think what's changed is we've got 23 million people. A storm that hits is likely to hit more people and property than it would have 100 years ago.
Milton came ashore as a Category 3 hurricane, causing strong storm surge and packing wind gusts that approached 100 miles per hour. Those winds shredded the roof of Tropicana Field in St. Petersburg. The Teflon-coated fiberglass roof was built to withstand winds of up to 115 miles per hour. The stadium that's home to Major League Baseball's Tampa Bay Rays was supposed to serve as a shelter for first responders. Thankfully, everyone inside at the time safely took shelter in the team's clubhouses. St. Petersburg mayor says Milton dropped 18 inches of rain on the city, and Tampa broke its monthly rainfall record in a single day. The Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office says it conducted more than 500 rescues, including this one of a 14-year-old boy stuck in floodwaters and floating on a broken fence. Officers say the boy had evacuated to a friend's house for the storm and then tried to walk home when the storm passed and got stuck in the floodwater. It is worth noting this neighborhood is not a flood zone. Milton sparked a series of tornadoes across Florida, including St. Lucie County on the state's east coast. A tornado there killed at least 4 people.
It lasted about a minute and a half, and it was gone. Walked outside and annihilated. The neighborhood annihilated. I just noticed the trees uprooted, water pouring down the driveway, my vehicle windows all smashed, dented. The tiles from the roofs annihilated, punctured into cars, windows blown out. Just devastation. Just never expected the devastation when you walk outside. It's surreal.
I'm joined now by NBC News correspondent Jesse Kirsch in Bradenton, Florida. NBC's Marissa Pera is in St. Petersburg. Also with me is NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns. Jesse, let me turn to you. What appears to have caused more damage in your assessment? Is it the wind or the storm surge?
Yeah, so I wasn't out here ahead of time, Kristen, so I'm going off of what officials have told us. But the estimation from those we've spoken with here is that Helene was a water event and Milton has been a wind event, at least where I am on Bradenton Beach. Back there, you can see what's left of a home that's in shambles. That is a home that we're told was shoved off of its foundation by Hurricane Helene's storm surge. It's supposed to be down here, Kristen. Take a look. This is the lot where it used to sit off to the side. But this is the tale of 2 stories, two different storms, 2 different punches, the 1-2 punch. That was Helene. And then right next door here, you can see this is a home that the wind, we're told, from Milton overnight twisted it off of the beams that are its foundation, and you can see what's left of it. I mean, just, devastating to see another home in shambles here. It's unclear how much the debris from Helene factored in to exacerbating damage overnight with Milton. But what I can tell you in this community is officials tell us that a lot of sand that has been blown this way is supposed to be along the coastline. And so this area is more vulnerable because the sand dunes, which are a fortification when you have water crashing on the shore, are not there right now. So if they had gotten devastating storm surge here overnight, that could have been all the more heartbreaking. This is also a community that appears to have learned lessons from Helene. And what I mean by that is officials tell us around 100 to 200 people remained in this community and rode out Hurricane Helene. There was that devastating storm surge. Officials were worried that with another storm coming, the structures were already in a weaker state of readiness. They also were worried about the forecasts coming through, and so they ramped up their messaging, they tell us, and they believe that there was no one that stayed on this community. So they believe that everyone evacuated from Bradenton Beach ahead of Milton overnight. They did not get the water impact, but again, all the same, it's good that people evacuated because you do have scenes like this. We spoke with the mayor of this community a short time ago. Here's part of what he shared with us.
It's heartbreaking. It's you know, my friends, my neighbors, again, 50 years out here, and seeing their homes, their livelihoods decimated like this. We'll build back. We'll be better, as good or better. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a lot of hard work.
And again, coming back here live, Kristen, just another look at the devastation. You can see we've got some sheriff's vehicles coming by here right now. These are really the only kinds of vehicles we're seeing. First responders, search and rescue teams. Again, they're not looking for anyone in particular at this point, just going through the motions, it seems, in this community, thankfully. But at this point, residents are not being allowed on, but that may be possible as soon as tomorrow. Kristen?
Jesse Kirsch, I know it has been a very long night for you, and obviously we see the impact that the storm has had there. Thank you for that report. Marissa, let me turn to you. We talk about the damage to Tropicana Field, which was just stunning if you think about it. That was supposed to actually be one of the safe places to shelter. How extensive is that damage, and did it catch authorities off guard?
Hey, Kristen. So I can tell you, even on our way here from Tampa, it is sometimes difficult to tell the difference between the damage left over from Helene and the damage left over from Milton. We were driving past flooded roads. We saw a lot of debris, which we assume was from Helene, and then, of course, carried out by the floodwaters from Milton overnight. But behind me, this is very clearly from Milton. This is very clearly the wind event, because remember, Helene was 100 miles off of these shores and caused so much damage with just the water, whether it was the storm surge, whether it was the flooding. This behind me, very clearly those powerful winds that whipped through, and you can see what is sort of the exoskeleton left behind, the pieces of fabric just left flapping in the wind. People who were walking nearby that witnessed this overnight described hearing a roaring, whipping sound. And we were able to talk to people who talked to the people inside, and they said that, of course, it was a terrifying thing, and they were able to take shelter. It was about 14 people. They worked in security personnel or a related type of business. And what we know is that there were lots and lots of cots. We've seen those images of the cots inside, because at one point it was thought that this could be a staging area for first responders. That did not end up happening. Before Milton made landfall, this was, no longer that situation. This was no longer the backup for first responders. They all moved to other areas. And then, of course, we had those 15 personnel, which were grateful to report they are all alive. They're all accounted for. St. Petersburg Fire and Rescue confirmed that, as well as the Tampa Bay Rays. They reached out because this is their home, expressing their gratitude that no one was hurt here. But Kristen, it's just a few blocks away. There was a crane that toppled over. We were here reporting yesterday. St. Petersburg was very worried about these construction sites. Cranes take weeks, and it takes scheduling weeks in advance to lower the cranes. Of course, they had days. Yet another instance of not having enough time to do what they needed to do. So one of those cranes did topple over on a building, and you might be able to see, hopefully, there you are. There's that footage of the debris left behind, the cylinder blocks, the pieces of metal, and then part of that building just completely torn apart. Again, another instance, though, where lives were spared. And Kristen, of course, so many questions on whether that was luck or whether the evacuations that we saw on the ground factored into the lack of injuries in both cases. We know, of course, we're still waiting to get a full scope of the damage and the devastation, what that really means here. But in terms of people who evacuated, we know that there was a lot less pushback that first responders got in those mandatory evacuation zones. And in the state of Florida, they estimate roughly 100,000 people took to shelters within this entire state, Kristen.
Well, the calls to evacuate were just so powerful and dire. Relief that so many people did heed those warnings. But the video footage that you're showing us, Marissa, is just stunning. And of course, our thoughts with all of those people who are still dealing with the aftermath of this. Bill, with that, let me turn to you. How would you assess the overall impact of this storm? Obviously, it was being forecast to be an historic storm. It wasn't as big, as large as it was predicted to be, but how would you characterize it?
I think you have to take each element separately, Kristen. So storm surge, I'm going to say underperformed. I'd say rainfall performed as expected, if not worse. Wind was as expected, if not worse. And the tornadoes were much worse. So, in all, it's still going to go down as a historic storm. I'm sure the name will be retired, but we can still learn some lessons from this. And of course, it was a Category 5, only 24 hours before landfall. And we're not always guaranteed that the storm is going to, go inland at 120, which it did. So this was the radar when it made landfall. And the first thing you notice is there's nothing on the bottom. The bottom side of the storm was pretty naked. There wasn't really any rain. There wasn't really any strong thunderstorm bands. And those thunderstorm bands, if we get that surge, should have been right in here. I'm still waiting to see if we're going to have like these storm surge pictures on the beaches, especially the Barrier Island, that shows any destroyed homes. And that would be from areas here from Venice to Inglewood and then towards the Port Charlotte and Punta Gorda. This Barrier Island should have had the highest storm surge. We know Naples and Fort Myers both reported a 5 to 6 foot storm surge. So closer to that landfall, you'd expect this to be a couple feet higher. But so far, we haven't seen any pictures of devastation here. And part of it may be because the strongest winds with the storm were not where they typically are. They were to the north. And also, the hurricane didn't have a big wind field for its really strong winds. It was kind of small. So that's how it was kind of different than Helene. Now the storm long gone. All of the weather effects are over with. There's just a few showers there in Volusia County. We did have the winds, and this was pretty much as expected. And with 3 million people without power, right through the I-4 corridor, all the way to the Space Coast and Daytona Beach, 80 to 90 mile per hour winds. It was like a Category 1 hurricane went through central Florida. The winds have really died down, as you'd expect. That's why we're really starting to get some improvements, and we're going to start seeing a lot more people beginning to get their power back on. And the tornadoes with this, before the landfall yesterday, were really incredible. Not because we had 38. We've had storms produce, many more than this, but the size of these tornadoes were enormous. I mean, many of them are going to go down as probably what we call EF3s, and those are on the stronger end of tornadoes, very atypical for when you have a landfalling system. So, yes, the storm surge, Tampa Bay was spared because Kristen, it made landfall south of there, so that was great for them. And I'm not saying there wasn't any horrific storm surge, but now we're 9 hours since the sun came up, and I still haven't seen any pictures of it. So I'm hoping it was an underachiever for storm surge. That would be great.
We're all hoping that as well, Bill. Just to follow up on that point, how much concern is there about potential flooding?
With the flooding that's really left, it's going to be the river flooding because, we did have just a ton of rainfall with this. Obviously, areas had 18, 14 inches there. Ormond Beach was 13. Even Orlando area had a ton of rain. So when you get this much rain, you're going to get some standing water. And so far, that's what you've been looking at across the Florida Peninsula. The rivers that we're most concerned with, the St. Johns River is going to be close to record flooding. That goes up here through Seminole County, northwards to DeLand, just outside of Daytona Beach here. Also, we got a couple rivers outside of Tampa. So we still have some rivers that need the crest, Kristen, and some additional flooding. But, we're not going to see like new evacuations or anything like that.
All right. Well, a little piece of good news there. Bill Cairns, thank you so much for breaking all of that down for us. We really appreciate it. Joining me now is Erik Arroyo, Commissioner for the city of Sarasota, who is also the former mayor. So thank you so much for joining us. I know you all have been through a lot. It's been a long night. How are you all doing? Have you been able to survey some of the damage?
Yes. First of all, thank you for having me. And we are safe. That's the most important part. We had family members coming over and staying with us, friends. We had about 9 people total in our house. Spent the last the days before the storm setting up and helping people board up their windows. But now, it was pretty intense when it happened. It was 130-mile-an-hour winds. There's significant damage. And then it kind of stopped, and there was a big calm last night. And that's because we were in the eye of the storm. So then a lot of people went outside only to have it pick back up. And trees are down in my backyard. I'm sending some pictures of, street lights being out, trees being down on the main street, on our main street. Some of the signs have been just completely destroyed. Significant damage. There's been talks of bridges even collapsing, but those are just talks. Those are we haven't had a full assessment yet to see what actually has happened. But I can tell you the good workers and employees of the city of Sarasota were out there. I can tell you at 6 a.m. Just cleaning the streets. It's truly heroic work that they're doing and selfless. So they deserve some recognition.
Absolutely. Commissioner, we are looking at some of those still photos that you had taken, that your wife had taken. It really gives us a sense of just how extensive the damage was, how powerful the storm was. Have emergency crews been able to start getting out as well? What have you seen in that regard?
Yes, they have. The Governor DeSantis prepared for this hurricane, as he does with all of them, but he had the largest standing group of individuals that we've ever had in history, just waiting for it to be safe for them to commence work. As of right now, it's over 3 million 3 million Floridians without power, us included. We have no power. We didn't have cell phone signal up until about 2:30 this afternoon, so we wouldn't even be able to have this phone call because of that. But I have heard from people that have gotten their power back, so we're hopeful that they're working on it. They're diligent. FPL does an amazing job.
Well, we hope that the power comes back as quickly as possible. As you are there dealing with the ongoing recovery efforts, what are your biggest concerns, Commissioner?
Our biggest concern is probably another tropical or water event occurring and coming from the Atlantic while we're in the middle of cleaning this one up, because this one came as we were in the middle of cleaning up after Debbie and Helene. So it's almost like when you're out at sea and you're trying to come up and stay above water, but then another wave comes and kicks you right back down. And I think that's the concern that this community is having.
Well, for good reason. We are glad that you are safe. We're glad that so many people did heed the warning to evacuate in the evacuation zones. Commissioner Erik Arroyo, thank you so much for joining me. We really appreciate it. Joining me now is Florida Congresswoman Kathy Castor, whose district includes much of Tampa. She joins us from Tampa's Emergency Operations Center. Congresswoman, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kristen.
So the concern was that Tampa would be in the eye of the hurricane. Ultimately, that was not the case, but still some significant damage there. Walk us through what happened and what the aftermath looks like.
Yeah, coming to you from the City of Tampa Emergency Operations Center, they have been here for a couple of weeks now following Hurricane Helene. Mayor Castor, of course, Mayor Welch from St. Petersburg, and I really have to thank all of the first responders, our local law enforcement officers, fire rescue, for doing everything they can to keep everyone safe. This has been a very important effort at all levels of government, from the Biden administration to FEMA to the state to our local authorities. That's what folks expect during a disaster like this. But we are really grappling with a massive catastrophe. 2 hurricanes within 2 weeks' time. Different impacts, different costs. People are flooded out of their homes from Helene, and now without power to recover, without cell service. this is going to be a long-term recovery that's going to take a lot more cooperation and new resources.
And I was just speaking to Commissioner Arroyo about this, but Congresswoman, in talking to your constituents today, what are their biggest concerns at this point as you all are cleaning up and trying to recover from this?
A short term, it's getting the trees off the streets that are blocking their way home, getting power back on, making sure kids can safely go back to school next week. Our public schools are used as our shelters, and it was so important that people heeded the evacuation orders and kept themselves safe. That hasn't happened in past storms. It didn't happen like it should have during Helene. They just never conceived of this. So short term, that's the front burner. But over the long term, the recovery are these hotter, longer summers, the extraordinarily hot temperatures of the Gulf of Mexico that provide the jet fuel for these storms to rapidly intensify and grow in size. And it's not just the weather. The climate crisis is also about your wallet. We have an insurance crisis in Florida. It's very hard to pay your electric bill because they're so high. So we've got to develop new solutions to reduce climate pollution and also protect our way of life, lowering cost and making sure we don't price people out of being able to live in the Sunshine State.
Absolutely. And obviously, FEMA has been coordinating the response. Are you satisfied with the level of coordination that you have seen from the state and local government? Do you think that enough is being done, that the resources are there, Congresswoman?
It's been an extraordinary effort on cooperation. The FEMA administrator was here, but let me tell you, those FEMA agents were here on the ground days after Helene, making sure people signed up for disasterassistance.gov and received thousands of dollars to carry them through, especially if they didn't have flood insurance. The cooperation has been very robust, but this is not where it ends. We have got to work together on a disaster supplemental to rebuild our critical infrastructure, our water systems, our wastewater systems, do it in a way that protects the taxpayer dollar so we're not having these flooding events that knock down power systems and critical infrastructure. We're going to have some updates to our Air Force Base. That's a critical economic engine. The Coast Guard station here nearby had catfish in the hangar and flooded out. We're going to have to survey all of our assets and build them back to be more resilient to these extreme events.
To that point, do you think that Congress should come back before the election to approve more disaster funding?
I would be back in a heartbeat. But the Speaker has made it clear that that's very unlikely. And local communities do need time to complete their damage assessments. I mean, we're not even 24 hours since Milton hit, and they have to survey all of the damage. So I did hear from Rosa DeLauro, the appropriations lead Democrat, and a lot of my colleagues who are ready to jump in and help. And in fact, President Biden called last night. Here's his direct number. Really appreciated that. So we're all in this together, and it's really time to make sure that we put people over politics and make sure that our neighbors get the help they need.
Congresswoman, what was the president's message to you?
That he is here for us. He's been in contact with Mayor Jane Castor, with Mayor Ken Welch, as has the vice president, talked with Governor DeSantis. This is going to be a long-term rebuilding effort. And like I said, to do it in a more resilient way, in a smarter way, with our population growth and just grappling with the costs and impacts of climate change as well.
Absolutely. Congresswoman Castor, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. You all are in our thoughts as you rebuild and recover in the wake of this massive hurricane. So thank you so much. Coming up, we will get a live update from Florida's East Coast as Milton moves further into the Atlantic. And I'll talk to a veteran local meteorologist about what's next in the forecast this hurricane season after two major storms. But first, the campaigns are out in full force today, blitzing key battleground states. Obama rallies in Pennsylvania, Harris hits Nevada and Arizona, and Trump stumps in Michigan. We have the very latest from the trail with just 26 days to go. You're watching Meet the Press now. Stay with us. Welcome back. With just 26 days until Election Day, former President Donald Trump isn't letting up on his personal attacks on Vice President Harris, doubling down on some of his harshest rhetoric. As our own Dasha Burns reported in real time yesterday at his rally in Scranton, Pennsylvania, Mr. Trump lashed out against Harris, signaling he has no interest in changing his tone, even if it turns off female voters.
She doesn't even know where the hell she is. They ask her questions like a vacuum. What? No, I don't want to be nice, you know. Somebody said, you should be nicer. Women won't like it. I said, I don't care.
Today, it's the Democrats focusing on battleground Pennsylvania as former President Obama hits the campaign trail for Vice President Harris with a rally in Pittsburgh tonight. It's the first but not the last event Obama plans to headline as the Harris campaign hopes to harness Obama's popularity in the remaining days of the campaign. Joining me now is Kelly O'Donnell in Pittsburgh, where President Obama will be speaking later this evening. And Shaq Brewster is in Detroit, where President Trump spoke earlier today at the Economic Club. Kelly, let me start with you. What are you anticipating we will hear from former President Obama? And what's the strategy to use him in these closing weeks?
Well, Kristen, for you and me, this is a little bit of a flashback of our days covering President Obama. It's been a dozen years since he was the candidate, and Kamala Harris and Tim Walz believe he remains a super surrogate, one of the most consequential voices in the Democratic Party, and someone who, in a battleground state like here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, can draw them out and make the argument for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in ways that they believe can reach voters who may be disengaged, voters who need a little push, voters who need to hear the story in another way. Barack Obama can talk about his long friendship with Kamala Harris. Also, of course, Joe Biden served as his vice president. He chose Harris to be his vice president, and there is a thread of continuity there that he will try to use to argue that the country is going to be better off under the stewardship of Kamala Harris if she is elected in November. It is a tight race, as we know, and using some of former presidents' sort of star quality is something that they want to use on the Democratic side, with both President Obama and later President Bill Clinton going off in a couple of key battlegrounds as well. Also, for Barack Obama, he has been offering advice. He has been offering support in fundraising and doing a lot of the sort of new ways of connecting with voters with direct to different kinds of audiences. But this is an old school rally where one of the best orators in the Democratic Party will try to make the case that Donald Trump would not be the choice for Pennsylvania, knowing how close this is, and in particular trying to reach some of the voters where Barack Obama has a strong affinity, namely black men. That would be one area where he can help, and connecting with older voters as well. Kristen?
Yeah, Kelly, if you look at the polls, in order to win, she's got to get up some of those numbers with male voters. Let me ask you, Kelly, she's agreed to do a town hall later this month, and some Democrats say, look, she's got to sharpen some of the answers that she's been giving on her economic proposals, on how she would differ from a Biden administration. What's the reaction been inside the campaign? Any plans to do that?
Well, one of the challenges as vice president, she is trying to demonstrate loyalty to Joe Biden for a lot of reasons. Their work together, the way he exited the race, certainly on matters of foreign policy. She and her campaign believe that it's important to have only one voice speaking for the country at a time. But on matters of domestic policy and ideas going forward, that is where she could have a little bit more daylight. And we've only seen very minimal examples of that so far. And that may be one of the ways where Kamala Harris is challenged to try to show how she would do some things differently in what she describes as a new way forward. It's a lot of the ideas that Joe Biden supports, and she's got to try to distinguish that in order to win over some of the undecided voters. Kristen?
It's a challenging line to walk, Kelly O'Donnell. There's no doubt about that. Thank you for your great reporting, as always. Shaq, let me turn to you now. Former President Trump spoke today at the Detroit Economic Club. Of course, it comes as we got new economic numbers showing that inflation ticked up slightly higher than expected. What has the response been from the former president?
Well, I'm sure it doesn't surprise you that he definitely mentioned that exact point on stage, talking about the latest inflation report, really putting the blame on Vice President Harris. He also went after the Federal Reserve, saying that the cut in interest rates that we saw earlier this month was political. We also heard him go after in the past, jobs numbers, saying that they were fake. But, earlier in this segment, you talked a little bit about how he said yesterday and really promised to dial up the rhetoric against Vice President Harris, saying that he's not listening essentially to advisors, saying that he should tone it down a little bit. And that was something that he continued here in front of the Detroit Economic Club. I want you to hear how he mixed that personal attack with his message on the economy.
Under Biden and Harris, because of inflation, the economy has been a total disaster. But Kamala says that she can't think of one thing that she would do differently. She said that 2 days ago in a very unfortunate interview for her. I don't think she has any idea what's happening, okay? I think she's dumber than hell. And we've had enough of that for 4 years. We're not going to have it any longer because we're not going to be a country if we have it.
You hear that strong language there, and this came over a course of about a 2-hour speech, nearly 2-hour-long speech here to members of the Economic Club. We did hear some substance and some new announcements from the former president. You heard him mention, for example, tariffs, the fact that he wants to impose tariffs, especially on companies that ship jobs overseas. He talked about tax policy and different changes to the tax law that he wants to have. But we also heard him talk about insurance rates, and I should say, talking about the fact that if you pay for interest on your auto loans, making that deductible, similar to how homeowners do and how they're able to do that with mortgages. So we heard a mix of comments there from Donald Trump, going personal, but also some new policy proposals in his extensive speech.
Great breakdown of that event. Shaq, Brewster, thank you so much. And, of course, Kelly O'Donnell beforehand. Coming up after the break, an update from a veteran Florida meteorologist on what could come next this hurricane season as the region recovers from 2 major storms now. Stay with us. You're watching Meet the Press Now. Welcome back. Recovery efforts are underway across Florida as the state deals with the aftermath of Hurricane Milton. While Milton made landfall on Florida's west coast, it's brought damage and flooding across the state, including the east coast. This was the scene in one South Daytona neighborhood as captured by our NBC News team on the ground there. Joining me now from Daytona Beach is NBC News climate reporter Cain. Chase, thank you for joining us. So we know Milton has now moved off the coast, but based on what you're seeing, how significant is the flooding at this hour? We see a lot of it behind you.
Yeah, Kristen, when we first got out this morning, we were on the barrier island on Daytona Beach and thought, okay, well, maybe the storm wasn't quite as bad as feared. But then once we crossed the bridge back over to the mainland, that's when we realized that so many roads were flooded and impassable. And then we talked to the Volusia County Sheriff, and he said that much of the county is underwater because there were pockets here in Volusia County that got 13, 14, even more than 15 inches of rain. And a lot of that came down in just a matter of a few hours, which really no stormwater system can handle. That cut off entire communities. Lots of people have been trapped inside their homes. We actually went out with the Volusia County Marine Unit, who took us out on an airboat and was showing us just how many neighborhoods are covered in water, and that really the only way out for people is either on a boat or if they're willing to walk through waist-deep water.
Oh, how terrifying. How are residents doing today? How are they coping? Were some of them caught off guard by the amount of damage that they actually saw today?
I think people here, unfortunately, are getting used to it because this happened just a couple of years ago with Ian. A few years before that, it happened with Charlie. We were actually talking with a lady that lives here in the neighborhood, and she said at the peak last night, the water was just above my waist. So we're talking about several feet of water in this neighborhood. And again, that's the story that's been repeated over and over. At last check with the Volusia Sheriff, they had 3 confirmed deaths. They're still trying to get to all the last few people. Communities like Port Orange, just a few miles down the road, one of those last places where they're still trying to go and make sure that everyone is accounted for and safe. And, if they need to leave their home, they're able to provide boats and airboat rides out to safety to a warm, dry place.
Oh, just unbelievable and such a tough road ahead. But Chase, we know you've had a long, tough night, so thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. And joining me now is veteran Central Florida meteorologist Tom Sorrells. He's based in Orlando. We are so grateful to have your perspective today. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Well, we are glad to have you. We're glad to see that you are okay. Can you tell us how your home, your community is doing in the wake of Milton?
It depends on what you mean by community. Everyone in Orange County did fairly well, although as the storm came through, it wasn't fair to everyone. It was not equitable, if you will. Here in Southwest Orange County, where I live, close to the attractions, we did okay. Our maximum sustained wind was probably 60 miles per hour. I personally never lost power through the night.
Wow.
The eastern side of the county took it a little tougher. They had tornado warnings and more damage. And the closer you get to the coast, is obviously what Chase was just showing you there. We had a lot of flooding along the East Coast. It's going to be nasty for a while.
Yeah, the flooding just looks incredibly harrowing. Look, you have been covering hurricanes for decades.
Yes, ma'am.
How do the hurricanes that we just witnessed compare to what you have experienced?
That's a great question, because here's the deal. 20 years ago, we had a crazy hurricane season here in Central Florida. We hit 4 different hurricanes in 44 days. Chase mentioned Hurricane Charlie. It blew through here quickly and was a major hurricane at landfall. This season, all of a sudden, we've had 3 strikes in the state of Florida. Debbie, we had Helene, and then last night, Milton. 2 of those 3 were major hurricanes. This is a weird situation that we're having all of a sudden. So to compare what we're going through now, back to 2004 is comparable. Between those 2 tent poles of 04, 05, and now, it was calmer in Florida as the globe continued to warm. So we're kind of looking at a special situation here to where everything's intensifying rapidly and we're getting hit a little more often than we have in recent years.
And just to put a fine point on it, do you believe this is a result of climate change?
100%. And I can say that with all honesty and I would say all enthusiasm, but it's actually a lack of enthusiasm. All of this ties back into the fact that the globe and the climate is changing. We're going through an unprecedented period here of carbon in the atmosphere. I know people kind of glaze over when I start talking about parts per million, but we're warming the atmosphere rapidly. Back in, say, let's pick out 1976. Parts per million in the atmosphere, we're running about 331. Today, the parts per million of carbon in the atmosphere is about 422. We've blasted 90 parts per million in the last 48 years. Now, what does that mean? That means we're warming rapidly. A lot of that warmth goes into our oceans and our atmosphere. So all of a sudden, our hurricanes are getting stronger, quicker. Over the last 50 years, Kristen, the percentage of hurricanes that go major has moved from 18%. It used to be just, 1 in 10 or 1 in 20 would go major hurricane status. Now, we're up to 43% of all hurricanes here in the Atlantic Basin are going Category 3 or bigger, as evidenced by what you just saw so far this season in Florida. 2 of our 3 strikes have been major hurricanes. It's, in my opinion, undeniably because of the global change in the temperature. And it won't just be, as we like to say in my business, it won't just be global warming. It'll be global weirdness. And so more weirdness is coming.
Well, okay, so it's just fascinating to hear you talk about that. That takes me to my next question, which is how should Florida, how should the rest of the country prepare for, brace itself for what will likely be more of these significant and more intense weather events?
Well, I think you have to come to the conclusion that we're doing all we can for the moment on some side or meteorological side to try to make people aware of the hazards and the dangers, right? And so you don't want to end up saying, hey, don't move to Florida. I love it here. More people are welcome to come here. Just remember the saying that they used to say at the Hurricane Center back in the day. Dr. Neil Frank at my first hurricane conference in 1989 told me, he said, Tom, the problem is people don't want to live near the water. They want to live in the water. Yeah. And that's kind of true. So we're going to have to mitigate the atmosphere. We're going to have to make sure that we don't keep pumping more carbon into the atmosphere. It will be a lifestyle change. We will go more electric. We'll change the way we prepare foods. We'll change a lot of things in our society. We will also change where you can go and where you can live. You can live here, but you have to run from the water and shelter from the storm. The wind will get you if you don't take shelter.
Well, it's a powerful way to put it, and learned a lot just listening to you, Tom Sorrells. Thank you so much for bringing us your expertise. We really appreciate it.
I enjoyed being on with you. Thank you so much.
We enjoyed it as well. Thank you. Still to come, hurricane season and campaign season collide. We'll dig deeper into disaster politics and what it means for the race for the White House. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Meet the Press now. Joining me now on set is D-Fla, White House correspondent for NPR. Former New York Democratic Congressman Joe Crowley and Brendan Buck, former advisor to Republican House Speakers Paul Ryan and John Boehner. He's also an NBC News political analyst. Thanks to all of you for being here. D-Fla, let me start with you. We just played the sound of former President Trump continuing to promote this false claim that FEMA funds are being redirected to migrants, which just is not the case. What are the politics of this? Because I've spoken to Republicans who say if he wants to win, he should stop promoting these conspiracy theories. He should stay on message and talk about the economy.
He should, but it's kind of what Trump does, right? This is not a new strategy for him to point at migrants, to point at people who are not white, right? His base, and say this is the root of our problems. And that comes across in so many different points in politics where Trump has used that as his, kind of method here. But at the same time, it kind of gives more fodder, you could say, to a Kamala Harris who's on the campaign trail and trying to show leadership in a moment like this, right? Which famously with natural disasters is something that we all remember, the toilet paper throwing, the paper towel throwing, excuse me, from Puerto Rico. And this is a moment where you really do see some of that contrast.
Yeah, Brendan, it's a very good point. I mean, historically, we know that the politics of a storm response actually matters. It's no secret what Trump is trying to do. He's trying to win over voters in North Carolina and Florida. Do you think what he's doing will work, or will it drive undecided voters away?
Well, two things. For Donald Trump, there is not a question that the answer is not immigration. If it's a disaster, it's immigration. If it's housing prices, it's immigration. He wants to talk about immigration at any cost. I don't know that this is an attempt to win the election. I think this is an attempt to potentially lay a predicate for claiming that the election was stolen. If he loses North Carolina at some point, it's because they weren't helping the Republican areas. That's why I lost. I don't trust that there's any, electoral strategic gain behind this. I think he's just throwing up a bunch of dust, trying to make people, anxious, which he always thrives in, and it's for the eventually being able to claim it was stolen.
Yeah, let me ask you. D-Fla makes the point that people do pay attention in these moments to who is showing leadership. Obviously, President Biden and the Vice President have been getting briefings. We know there's this big dust up between the Vice President calling Governor DeSantis. He said he wasn't aware that she was trying to reach him, but, he's focused on storm response. How do you assess how she has handled this moment, these two hurricanes, Helene and now Milton?
Well, I think so far she's done very well in this. I mean, I think in comparison to the former president who continues to disparage and say these lies about the effects of the federal government helping state governments, it goes back to after the debate, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. It takes the governor of Ohio, Republican, to say that's not true.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. He just keeps saying it. And the same thing here, I think, when it comes to the issue of North Carolina. This is a very difficult place to address this issue. And it's very rural. The terrain is very rough. And many of the roads have been washed out. I mean, what really here is an incredible tragedy. And a real leadership question is going to be, how do we ensure the people that want to vote are going to be able to vote that day? Because I lived through Sandy in Queens, New York. We moved mountains to make sure we had like MASH-like units for people to vote in the Rockaways. It's going to be much more difficult, given the circumstances they have there now, to ensure the state governments to ensure that people who want to vote have the ability to do that.
There are so many concerns about how it's going to impact voters' ability to actually have their ballots cast. I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about women voters. Former President Trump weighing in on women voters. I want to play a little bit of what he's had to say recently and get everyone's reaction.
A guy came up to me today. He said, "Sir, you really should be nicer to her. The women won't like it." The women want safety, and the women want to have a country that they can be proud of, I think. They want to see a country that works, and we're going to have a country that works very, very soon. And the women are going to like Trump. I think they like me anyway. I think it's all, They make it up.
D-Fla, talk about this strategy. And we are seeing, quite frankly, in historic gender, divide right now, with Harris doing much better with women voters and Trump doing much better with men voters. We know there's a real effort from the Harris campaign to woo male voters.
Yeah, really concerted effort, not only from Harris herself, but of course her running mate Tim Walz.
Yes.
You have the second gentleman, Doug Emhoff, going to these certain events, appearing on these platforms. But at the same time, you know, Harris's strong suit, even as vice president, when she was taking this lead on the issue of reproductive rights and abortion, has been reaching women. And you're seeing her do that in different ways, too, recently, right? This media blitz that she just kind of did in the last couple of days, Call Her Daddy, the podcast, going on The View, which reaches a lot more older women, and not just talking about that issue of abortion, but also talking about things like family support, tax credits for children, things like that, where she can really bring a policy lens to talking about the issue of women. Women are not really an issue, if I'm being honest. Everything affects women, right? The economy affects women, housing affects women, anything is a women's issue. And she's really bringing that policy lens to it, and that's really where she is kind of trying to find her footing. Whether or not voters are really using that as their reason to vote for her is, you know, a different question.
Yeah, I mean, Congressman, back in 2016, we know that we were talking about what would be an historic gender gap, and ultimately Hillary Clinton didn't get the ball over the finish line. This is a different climate. It's a different race. It's also the first presidential election after Roe v. Wade has been overturned.
I would also suggest Trump is doing just fine with women as far as I'm concerned. He should keep the strategy going. Look, you know, it's one thing to treat her nicer. It's more important to treat her with respect. And he doesn't do that. He disrespects her all the time. Initially, by not pronouncing her name correctly, it grows from there. He has no respect for Kamala Harris, and I think that is really the issue here, and that's what really comes through.
Brendan, you know, former President Trump, obviously, he has always had this strategy of trying to get out his base, and we are seeing that on display right now, and it has worked for him in the past, but the question is, will it work in this moment?
It hasn't and hasn't. I mean, he lives in that 2016 election where he won, and nobody seems to want to catch up to the fact that it didn't work in 2020. And in the context of what we're talking about, the one area that he's trying to get out of the vote that may be costing him with women votes is he's so hyper-focused on his little bubble, particularly turning out the bro voters, as you will. He's doing all of these very specialized podcasts that are for young white men. And that's fine if you want to change the shape of the electorate, turn those people out, but you have to realize that there is a cost to that. J.D. Vance talking about cat ladies and going on weeks-long messaging campaigns to disparage single women may really excite some bro voters, young white men.
I find it so fascinating. I was going to say, because the Republicans are talking about women. Kamala Harris doesn't get up on stage the way Hillary Clinton did in 2016 and talk about being a woman. She's not running as a woman candidate. That has never been a part of her piece here. And so when you look at the split screen, it's pretty much just one side that's talking about women as if that's like a voting issue.
And I think it's always a mistake to assume there's a strategy in what Donald Trump is doing. He's lashing out at women because he's looking at the same polling we all are that shows him getting his butt kicked with women voters. He doesn't really know what to do about it. So he's saying, I don't believe it. It's not true.
All right, guys, great conversation. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here today. Appreciate it. And coming up, we will get a live update from Florida's East Coast as Milton moves. Oh, actually, no, that's the end of the show, folks. Thank you all for being here. I'm back tomorrow with more Meet the Press Now. The news continues with Hallie Jackson right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.